women like you. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. I'm sure you all have heard by now, people are trying to cancel our brother Shaun King. Yes, I said our brother Shaun King. Shout out to the brother. He does tremendous work in the community day in and day out, fighting against police brutality. And as Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. teaches us, that we measure things based off of the results that we get. And our brother Shaun King has made tremendous contributions to our community and gets hella results. So shout out to him before I continue. But you know, people want to cancel him over comments that he made about Whyte Jesus. He basically said, yeah, while y'all are taking down those statues of white supremacists and people who have done atrocious things to our people, let's go ahead and take down those Whyte Jesus statues off that stained glass and out of the churches and everywhere else, because that is also a symbol of white supremacy and racism. So we're going to get into this. I have several articles I want to read, and then I have different perspectives about God, what we call God, who we call God, from a very African-centered perspective. So we're going to listen to some other elders and some sound bites from them. But as you're coming on in, I want to welcome you into the Lioness Den. Again, I'm Lioness Crowned, Jay Arundel, and you're right here rocking with me at FlyNubianQueenTV.com. And we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And then also, you know, we're pretty spontaneous, so you never know where we might be, what we might be out doing in the world, looking at together on FlyNubianQueen.com's Facebook page. So make sure you are subscribed. Thank you for hitting that notification bell. Thank you for hitting that like button as you come into the broadcast. Also, make sure you text the word Queens to 31996. That's Queens with an S to 31996. Now, as you're entering into the Lioness Den, I want you to shout me out. Shout out everyone else in here. Give us a B1 if you black first. If you ain't, you can get the hell up out of this space. This is a B1 space. This is an unapologetically black African space. And then also let us know what city you're hailing from, what city y'all coming from around the States. All right. And so as y'all are doing that, I'm going to read the copyright disclaimer so that people won't come for us, because we will be looking at, you know, some text today. Shout out to our moderator. Thank you, Dual, for putting that in. All right, so the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, so now that we got that housekeeping out of the way, I am going to go ahead and just pull up, I think I'm going to pull up the first article that I wanted to talk about to give y'all some context, and then we're really going to get into this. And y'all let me know what y'all think as you're coming in. Also, maybe moderator, if you can put this in, do you support the takedown of images of Whyte Jesus? Yes or no? Do you support the takedown of images of Whyte Jesus? Y'all let me know, and I want to read your comments and see what y'all have to say. I know that this is an intelligent space, but you know, people are open to their perspectives and stuff. All right, so the first thing I want to read, I'm going to read from the Griot first, and this article is titled "Shaun King Supports Takedown of Whyte Jesus Statues." Shaun King supports takedown of Whyte Jesus statues. His bold remarks come as demonstrators topple, vandalize, and in some cases utterly destroy historic monuments during Black Lives Matter protests. Interesting how these protests are all called Black Lives Matter protests, and not everyone out there is a member of or a supporter of Black Lives Matter. But that's how the media is reporting it, and so I'm just reading what's here on the Griot. Shout out to you, Terry Jones, B1 to you. I see y'all coming in. Let me know your city, your state. Give me a B1 salute. And then also, do you support the takedown of images of Whyte Jesus? Yes or no? All right. Activist Shaun King believes statues depicting Jesus as a white European is a form of white supremacy, and they no longer have a place in modern society. King's bold remarks come as Black Lives Matter demonstrators topple, vandalize, and in some cases utterly destroy historic monuments of slave owners and prominent figures from the colonial era. Protesters have taken down statues in the United States, Britain, and Belgium as civil unrest continues over police brutality and race relations in the wake of George Floyd's death, Fox News reports. quote, yes, I think the statues of the white European they claim as Jesus should also come down. They are a form of white supremacy, always have been, end quote, King tweeted on Monday. Shout out to our brother Shaun King for that tweet, by the way. All right, quote, in the Bible, when the family of Jesus wanted to hide and blend in, guess where they went? Egypt, not Denmark. Tear them down, he added. I love it. Excuse me. King's comments received mixed reactions and sparked debate in the comments section. In a follow-up post, he noted that Whyte Jesus is a lie. Quote, Whyte Jesus is a lie. That's what he put in the post. And, quote, racist propaganda used by white supremacists as a, quote, tool of oppression. Tool of oppression. Y'all let me know where y'all stand on this issue. I want you to type your comments in to the thread. Also, I want you to know that this is Lioness Crown. You've entered into the Lioness Den. If you have the heart of a lioness and the heart of a lion, rock with us, stay with us, and engage in intelligent, Black empowering or Black empowerment conversations that are constructive. All right. And thank you all for hitting that like button as you come into the Lioness Den as well. Back to the article. In a series of tweets, the controversial media personality expressed his support of the removal of all murals and stained glass windows of Whyte Jesus and his European mother and their white friends. I'm going to read that quote again by Shaun King. It says, in a series of tweets, the controversial media personality expressed his support of the removal of all, quote, murals and stained glass windows of Whyte Jesus and his European mother and their white friends, end quote. Last month, King was the subject of a lengthy report from the Daily Beast that put his questionable fundraising tactics back in the spotlight, period. I just wanted to stop right there. All right, so the article is clearly stating what his tweets were, what his position is, but then it goes back into, instead of processing or analyzing or the writer giving any form of opinion or stance on any of this, right? It just goes back to, it goes to some allegations about his fundraising. And I've heard things about our brother's fundraising in the past. I wasn't there. I didn't see the reports. I have an opinion about it either way. I know that some people that I feel that are credible people did participate in putting together his report. So I will say that. And then I will also say that when people do the work of revolutionaries and organizers and they are banging against the system of anti-Black racism and white supremacy and producing justice, there will always be a scandal, right? History teaches us that. And so when these things come up, I take it as a grain of salt. But I bring this up to say that, interestingly, right after they talk about our brother's tweet and his stance on this, it goes right into some allegations of character assassinations or undermining his track record. So I found it interesting, the placement of that within this article, but I'm going to continue reading. And again, I'm reading from the Griot. It says, last month, King was the subject of a lengthy report from the Daily Beast that put his questionable fundraising tactics back in the spotlight. In the piece titled, quote, Shaun King keeps raising money and questions about where it goes, end quote, former employees who had been hired to work with King at the North Star speak out about his seemingly shady business practices. The online publication is a reboot of the newspaper from the same name created by Frederick Douglass, the Griot previously reported. The Daily Beast article notes that while no criminal or civil charges have ever been filed against Shaun King, the hashtag Shaun King let me down recurs with some regularity. The tag has been used to highlight some of the many projects other than the North Star for which King has raised money but never completed. Okay. And then there's a tweet in this article embedded from our brother Shaun King about the murals and Whyte Jesus, etc. So this tweet reads basically everything that I just said, but it goes on to say, yes, all murals and stained glass windows of Whyte Jesus and his European mother and their white friends should also come down. They are a gross form of white supremacy created as tools of oppression, racist propaganda. They should all come down. Okay. Now back to the article. In a response to the piece, D. Ray McKesson wrote on Twitter that King should immediately and publicly release all former North Star staff from NDAs, which are non-disclosure agreements with no penalty, end quote, and, quote, stop soliciting funds altogether immediately, end quote. Activist and attorney Imani Gandhi, another critic of King, accused him of, quote, selling wokeness to white people, end quote. King stated that many of the problems with the North Star are due to his own overzealousness and his, quote, tendency to take on too much too soon, end quote. That's how the article in the Griot starts and ends, right? It starts with the issue, which is our brother speaking truth to power about these white supremacist symbols, especially in religion, and how they have been used, you know, as tactics to enforce, you know, white supremacy, right? But instead of sticking with that, the character assassinations and the critique about his work, his fundraising practices, et cetera, are thrown into the article. And in my opinion, as a scholar and also as an educator, you know, that could be interpreted as, you know, efforts to perhaps, and I could be wrong, people correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps it's used and strategically put in there to kind of undermine the truth that our brother is speaking with these tweets about Whyte Jesus. At this point, like, the fundraising and all of that stuff will take care of itself. I believe that people are innocent until they are proven guilty. Usually in a court of law, there's some type of receipts or evidence. I'm not going to get into all of that. He hasn't been convicted of anything. But if the point of this is our brother really advocating for the takedown of all white supremacist symbols, statues included, Whyte Jesus included, then what is the point of, you know, adding in other controversies about fundraising that have nothing to do with his stance or his position, you know what I'm saying, as a scholar, as a clergyman, as a fundraiser, as an activist who is trying to eradicate a system of anti-black racism and white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice? What does that have to do with it? But again, this came from the Griot. Shade but no shade. Maybe I just threw a tree. I don't know. All right, so that's from the Griot. I want to thank you all for tuning into the Lioness Den. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that share button, because we have some things to talk about as it comes on to Whyte Jesus, and I have some very provocative things that I want to say. All right, but before I do that, I want you to be sure to go over and visit our shop at shopfnq.com. That's shopfnq.com. And I have a warm beverage this morning, and it has a lot of cinnamon in it, y'all. A lot of cinnamon, because I love cinnamon. Hold on. All right, so I'm seeing y'all comments before I move on. There's one more article I want to read from Black Enterprise. Duel said BLM is not B1. It's really not. Not in my opinion, anyway. I think a lot of the organizers and stuff, you know, do mean well and all of that good stuff, but as a slate, as a platform, not something that I would get behind. Not something I've ever really supported or gotten behind. I've never gone to a Black Lives Matter meeting or anything like that. Although I did have a guest on who is a founding member and a president of a Black Lives Matter chapter that is not like corporately sponsored. That was like really grassroots before it went full on George Soros corporate. But that's a whole nother conversation. I can bring back our brother Anthony Beckford on at another later date. So y'all are saying some stuff. I got B1s. Hey, Candace Container Gardening. Brother Kofi, I see you. Terry Jones says absolutely bring them all down. He's a lie. Whyte Jesus gots to go. Gots to go. B1, Memphis. I see Memphis is in the house. All right, y'all. I see y'all. Hey, Edward. Okay, so M11B22INF8791. That's a whole code, ain't it? Says at least he's standing for the people. What have you done lately for Black people? You keyboard warrior. All right. Well, I didn't mean to like instigate or get into any of that. But what I will do and what I will speak of based off of that last comment, that's the thing. Like some of the people who go the hardest, who are out here organizing and getting work done, are the ones who will be dragged, ostracized, and criticized, critiqued, oftentimes by people. Usually it's three types of people, right? Usually by three types of people. I don't know who that comment was directed at, so I'm not getting into that, but this is based off of my own observations. The three types of people who usually critique freedom fighters are people who are just ignorant, like they just don't have a lot of information about organizing, what organizing is. They don't have a lot of information about the Black liberation movement, the Black civil rights movement, about our struggle, our history. People who are ignorant about themselves and their true identities, or just really don't feel comfortable with themselves or know who they are, or people who have a low, hold on, I have a word, y'all. I have a word from my course last night. I had a live class with Dr. Joy DeGruy. Let me get this right. People who have vacant esteem. Check out Dr. Joy DeGru's work. Vacant esteem, right? Their cultural esteem, in terms of their racial identity, cultural identity, is just vacant. And the ignorance piece plays into that. So ignorant people tend to critique freedom fighters or always got something to say. The other type of people are people who are just lazy, right? Intellectually lazy, or who are just naysayers. Instead of them going out and do the work, they will watch everyone else do the work and then critique them for doing work that they're not doing, because they know that they're not doing it. So they're really projecting their own insecurities and things that are, things that they don't like about themselves onto other people, right? That also looks like people who will see someone organizing or doing something great and they know that they haven't done their part. So therefore, they will rather tear someone else down because they want everyone to be on the same level as them, which is inactive and ineffective. Somebody put in ineffective in the comments, all right? And the third type of people who tend to critique and go after freedom fighters could be fellow activists and fellow people who think that they're freedom fighters, but what they're actually doing is undermining Black progress. But those people are doing it. The third reason is because they are jealous. Because they're jealous that someone else has a bigger platform. Because they're jealous that someone else has more press than they do. Because they're jealous that someone has access to more resources than they do. Because they're jealous that someone is really actually doing it from their heart as opposed to for the attention or the accolades, right? Thank you for typing in ineffective, real info me. So those are the three types of people. People who are ignorant with vacant esteem. People who are just lazy, intellectually lazy, Negro naysayers who know that they're not doing anything constructive and they don't want anybody else to do anything constructive either. And then I would argue that those people actually also hate themselves, and therefore they also in turn naturally hate Black people. So that's the second group of people. And then the third group of people that I tend to see that tear down freedom fighters in their efforts of actually getting things done and replacing a system of anti-Black racism with a system of justice are people who are jealous of others. People who are jealous of others because, folks may have a bigger platform or they may have access to more resources. And sometimes people don't have large platforms and access to a lot of resources. They could just be well loved, well respected, and well trusted by the people that they're actually serving. So listen, I'm not throwing shade at anyone directly. I'm just saying that a trend that when I go out and I look at the world, when I open up my books and when I return to my study groups and I have these types of dialogues, those are the types of three patterns or three types of people that I see who undermine Black progress and tear other people down. I think we have to get out of the habit of the crabs in the barrel mentality. We have to get out of, and thank you all for hitting that like button too. I see y'all are coming in because an alert didn't go out. Thank you all for hitting that like button, and I see your comments. We'll get to those. We have to get out of this mentality that we cancel a whole person because they do or say something that we don't like, especially when it's something petty and non-constructive and like non-consequential, or that we spend more time focusing on the things that people did that are undesirable or that we don't like or that they did wrong, as opposed to finding common ground to build with people and create things with our people in a very constructive manner to see, okay, like, well, we may disagree on 10 things, but when it comes to this one thing over here about ending the school to prison pipeline, for example, I can work with you on that. I'm just saying that is what we must get out of those horrible habits and patterns and really step into something new. We need to rebirth ourselves. Yeah, Duel says cancel culture is not cool. It's just really not. It's just really not. It's just really not. And it really feeds into the white supremacist agenda, which is to have us divided and conquer anyway. Why give these fools any more ammunition? But either way, y'all already know how I can go. We're in the lioness den. So I see my lionesses in the house. I see my lions in the house. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Lioness Den. Again, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then at random times. So I may go out in the world and take a look at some things and make some observations and bring y'all with me. So make sure you're also tuned into and you're subscribed to our Facebook page. That's flynubianqueen.com on Facebook, and we're also flynubianqueen.com on iTunes, and make sure you check out our business programming at flynubianbusiness.com. That's flynubianbusiness.com. All right, next article I want to read from Black Enterprise. So let's compare and contrast the coverage. I don't know, let's see what they say about our brother Shaun King's Whyte Jesus takedown comments. Lord have mercy. All right, so this one is entitled Shaun King, statues of white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. All right, so this is written by someone named Cedric Big CED or Big Said Thornton. All right, and it came out yesterday on July 23rd. I got all types of pop-ups coming up here. Hold on, y'all. All right, Black Lives Matter activist Shaun King caused quite a stir on Twitter after he tweeted that statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down, end quote. In response, a number of social media users critiqued King. The recent spate of statues of historically known races or those engaged in racist behavior being removed, toppled, and or desecrated has caused King to also call for the removal of statues of Eurocentric Jesus Christ. For years, the skin tone and color of Jesus have been in dispute based on the origin of his roots. According to history.com, quote, for many scholars, Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15 offers a clue that Jesus' skin was a darker hue and that his hair was woolly in texture. The hairs of his head, it says, quote, were white as lamb's wool, white as snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined as in a furnace, end quote. Okay. And then this article, I mean, it just basically cuts and pastes a lot of the tweets from our brother Shaun King. So that happened. But I noticed that Black Enterprise didn't go into a lot of allegations about his alleged, shady fundraising practices. I noticed that. But also that article was pretty short. So y'all know what I had to do. What I had to do was go to the source. And I went to several sources. So our brother Shaun King actually did do, I'll get this out the way, and then we're going to get into some metaphysical things about God, what we call God, images of God, and all of that. We're going to get into that by some other scholars after this. I want to wrap this stuff up with Shaun King's comments so we have full context. Our brother went on yesterday his podcast called The Breakdown. Shaun King has a podcast called The Breakdown. I think it's streamed on Apple, and then it's also on Spotify. And this is episode 262, and it's called The Crisis of Christian Whiteness. Episode 262, The Crisis of Christian Whiteness. Let's listen to what our brother has to say. And in the meantime, I want to thank you all so much for hitting that like button, for subscribing to flynubianqueen.com, the network for melanated women like you. All right, here we go. I already read the copyright infringement, Fair Use Act. All right, so listen to our brother Shaun King from his podcast in his own words.
Some of them 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years after the end of slavery.
What he's saying here is that Notice that a lot of these statues that are being torn down now, or these statues of white supremacists, you know, people who participated in slavery and did really, really egregious racist things against our people, a lot of those statues were actually erected during the civil rights movement. Okay, think about that. A lot of those statues were erected during the civil rights movement. They were not there, you know, during the days of slavery or even during Reconstruction. A lot of them were put up during the civil rights movement. Why? Let's listen.
They were built, some of them were built literally during the civil rights movement. They were put up, some of them 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years after the end of slavery. They were put up really as a big FU to the civil rights movement, to black people in general, and this notion that if you tear down monuments, that all of a sudden you are erasing history is foolish. And I think on some level it's an overused analogy, but I think it's literally the single best analogy that exists. Nobody has these same problems when it comes to ensuring that there are no monuments to Nazism. Not only are there no open monuments to Hitler, but to none of his generals or lieutenants or sergeants or captains or anybody else. There are no monuments to Nazis, and we shouldn't have monuments to Nazis, and that's clear. It's understandable. We're not arguing over that because we understand that they were horrible people who did horrible things and caused great pain. But what we see is people who understand that all of a sudden seem to get real confused when another group of people, primarily African Americans and black people from throughout the diaspora all over the world, are saying, listen, that monument and that person causes me pain. And when that person was alive, they were a monster to my people. And I have to deconstruct this argument that there was a time in human history where slavery or bigotry or racism was just okay. It might have been okay to people who supported slavery, bigotry, and racism. But for the recipients of that, it was never okay. It was never acceptable. And from the beginning of time, people, particularly those impacted by slavery and white supremacy and bigotry, have always fought back. So this notion that there was a time when it was socially acceptable, again, let's go back to Nazism. There was a time when it was the standard in Germany. It wasn't a fringe movement. It was the national government. It was the way. But just because it was the way, here's what I need you to understand. All
right. So you hear what he said, right? That was just to show that many of the Confederate monuments were put up during the Civil Rights Movement for intimidation purposes. And then he's going on to talk about Nazi Germany. After Nazi Germany, I would say, went out of style, right? Were kicked out of power. You don't see any statues or memorials or anything commemorating Adolf Hitler and the Nazis in Germany. He was bringing up that point. Now, there's something else that our brother says, and I looked at the comments. I looked at the comments. Some of them were pretty funny. But anyway, this is what our brother Shaun King said in response to the comments that he made about taking down the images of Whyte Jesus. Listen up.
What I said yesterday, I hold on to it. I don't back down. Even though it's trended and there are open critics to what I was saying. Monuments, statues, and art of this white European from Denmark or Switzerland or wherever he may be from, of this model that people are now claiming and have been claiming for hundreds of years is Jesus. One, that's not Jesus. That man, that blonde-haired, blue-eyed man, that's a European model.
Literally a model, right? Like how some people be modeling for the gram and like modeling or whatever, taking pictures. That white dude that looked like what's that movie, Jesus Christ Superstar from the 70s? he looked like a hippie or whatever, is literally a model, right? They used to pay models to come in and sit down, sit very, very still, and make portraits of them in Europe. And so that's exactly who that person is. So listen up.
European model is now held up as the most common image of Jesus, who, when according to the Bible, I'm not here to argue over the validity or truthfulness of the Bible. I have my own views. That's not even what I'm here to argue today. According to the Bible, when Jesus and his parents and family needed to hide, they went to hide in the middle of Egypt. Can you imagine if a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or let's give him red hair and blue eyes, however you want to make that European look, can you imagine that European going to hide in Egypt? There's so many examples of this. The Bible was not written with modern-day American racism and white supremacy in mind, but there's another moment in the adult life of Jesus where he is days away from execution, and one of his disciples sells him out. And when the disciple Judas brings local authorities to point Jesus out, he has to point Jesus out from among the disciples. He can't say he's the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed one here. Jesus looks so much like the other disciples that Judas had to literally point and say, that's him, because he just looked like everybody else.
All right, so I'm gonna pause there. I want to note a couple things that I see. I think that's a good point that he made, that Jesus looked like everybody else there. He wasn't some white dude with blonde hair, blue eyes, sticking out like a sore thumb when it was time to lock him up and persecute him. All right. The other thing that I do want to notice is, I'm going to name that, just by looking at the chat right now, I can see those of us who are on code and really being having a constructive or productive conversation. And some people were just lost in the sauce. Hey, Michael Freeman. Some people are just lost in the sauce, okay? And some people who are just focusing on the wrong thing. So if you are focused on right now, we're talking about Jesus and the fact that he wasn't no blonde hair, blue eye white man, and then also how that has been weaponized against us to perpetrate white supremacy. Right, and it's a symbol of white supremacy, subjugation, oppression, and there's a whole history behind that. That is the focus. We are demystifying and deconstructing that. So if you're using your time and our time, right, to debate whether, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock, so that's confirmation that what I'm saying is dropping jewels and facts, and is divinely ordained, and it's in right timing and right order. If you're using this time to have a non-constructive conversation about whether Shaun King, our brother Shaun King, yes, I'm saying our brother Shaun King, is black or white, or if he's a whole white boy, X, Y, and Z, then everything is just going over your head right now. Everything is going over your head right now, and I'm not understanding how or what, like how is that going to support with black liberation, with the liberation of black African people on the planet? How is that constructive? And shout out to you. Thank you so much, Michael Freeman, for your generous contribution. That numerology you just dropped, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very, 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 very much, brother. Thank you for your contribution to Fly Nubian Queen. And I see some of y'all put the name of the white dude, the white model who they painted Jesus after. First of all, I want to ask everyone right quick, make sure you hit that like button. Hit that like button, because I want more people to come into the broadcast, and you definitely need to hear what I'm about to play next. And we need our people to hear it. And hopefully young people will be tuned in as well. Okay, young people will be tuned in as well. All right, so you heard what he said, and then he goes on in the rest of that broadcast and talks about why it matters. Why does it even matter? Why does it even matter whether Jesus is black or white? Why does it even matter? Somebody type in why does it even matter with a question mark in the chat, because I want that question to live in there for the rest of this broadcast, y'all, because I got 2 more other people that I want to play right quick. Peace, Darlene X. Thank you for tuning in to The Lioness Den. Again, I want to thank everyone for hitting that like button, for rocking with a sister. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. at 12 p.m. Eastern time. All right, so we're going to take this over to the 11-minute and 45-second mark. And I'm doing it real slow. Okay, and play.
Saying, listen, this issue doesn't matter. First off, 20 hours a day, I am primarily working against police brutality, against the issue of mass incarceration. And I do that morning, noon, and night. It's the primary work, not just of my life right now, but of my entire life. And we're able to focus on more than one issue at once. In fact, we have to. We don't have the luxury of just fighting police brutality because it's not our only problem. We don't have the luxury of just fighting any one single issue when we're also facing voter suppression. Today is election day in both of my home states of Kentucky and...
Yeah, that was yesterday. Voter suppression is really, really real, y'all. Just so you know, voter suppression is real. So he's going to talk about that, but he's talking about it matters because these things are all interconnected. These are all interconnected. And Michael Beatzilla says Shaun King is solid. He got black babies. And listen, I have relatives in my family who are as light, distant relatives though, as light as him. Back in the days of slavery, he probably would have been considered to be an octoroon. There's a whole science in terms of how black people and colored people or the African slaves who were mixed were classified on a spectrum, on a hierarchy of race. But that's a whole nother lesson for a whole nother day, right? So I see some of y'all are still doing that. So listen, that's what he said. So why does it matter? Why does it matter? So y'all know I had to put on, like, I had to get my research going, and then I was like, well, what would Mr. I want to call him doctor so bad. What would Mr. Neely Fuller think about this? And shout out to the elder who is still going strong all these years. He goes live. He does a radio show every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time on producejustice.com. So I wanted to hear what he had to say about this. So I'm going to go over to my archives, my history, and this particular soundbite that I'm about to play is from 5 years ago, and it's by Mr. Neely Fuller, and it's called Praying to Jesus Being White or Black. Praying to Jesus Being White or Black. Listen up.
Is to me about Jesus being white. I just simply say, well, I talk to white people, all the time, and I seek information, so I have no problems with Jesus being white. I have problems with anybody, white or non-white, who is not giving me answers to questions.
Period. Mr. Fuller just said he doesn't have a problem with Jesus being black, with being white, right? He said he has a problem with people not being able to answer questions. Keep that in mind as you continue to listen. And I want to shout everyone out for hitting that like button and for tuning into the Lioness Den. You already know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, if there's somebody that I am consulting called Jesus, and I say that I'm dependent on that person to give me answers to whatever it is that the problem might be, I guess that would be the reason for consulting someone named Jesus, and that is to get answers to questions. Then it comes down to what we talked about earlier in this program, and that is, okay, I consulted this person called Jesus. Now, somebody said that the person is white. Somebody else said, no, he was really black. Somebody said, well, he doesn't even exist, that somebody made it up. That's not the issue. The issue is, once I get the answer to my question, I called on. See, I'm not calling on somebody like calling an ambulance or anything else. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling on anybody except somebody who can help me. Now, if somebody says, well, Jesus will help me, so I call on Jesus. No problem there. Now, once I make that call, when you call someone, presumably you get an answer. And I've heard people say that they've gotten answers from Jesus.
I'm gonna take somebody who just typed in the comments your advice. I'm gonna call him Dr. Neely Fuller. He deserves it. He's a doctor in my eyes. So Dr. Fuller just said he's expecting to get answers from someone who says that they're offering answers. Right? Now let's listen.
Now it comes down to what we talked about earlier in the program. What do you do now that you got your answer? Because you got to do something now. I mean, why did you call on someone? That someone is either going to do it for you, or you are going to receive a message saying something that you should do. Okay? Now, I've heard people say it both ways. No, Jesus takes care of everything. You don't have to do nothing. Now, I've heard some people say that.
Yes.
Well, okay. Then if it's not done, well, that was Jesus' will, So that's the end of that story. So it's not done. But now if Jesus sends you a message, well, I got a few things for you to do. All right? So you just listen to whatever those few things are. And everybody, whether you called on Jesus or the mayor or the Pope or whomever, your buddy down the street, all that you really look for is what was the result. Because that's...
Did you catch that? You can call on anybody, the mayor, Jesus, your mama, your daddy, your brother, the person down the street. And after you call on them, what you need to measure the effectiveness of the call on was whether they yielded any results. Walk with the elder right quick. Just take a walk with us. Here we go.
That's the logic.
That's the logic.
That's the logic.
I mean, if you get the result that you asked for, then you know that you're on course. If you didn't get that result, then maybe it's one or two things happen. Maybe you asked for the incorrect thing, or you just wasn't supposed to get it. Period. See, I don't argue with people about, what Jesus said, or what John said, or what Nehemiah said, or what Solomon said, who was supposed to be the wisest person in the Old Testament. I don't know what he said. You received the message. So I just look at whatever the result is of what you said that was your dilemma.
Yes.
Yeah, I look for the result. That's all. I'm just looking for the result. I'm not going to argue about who you consulted.
Y'all catch that? So Dr. Neely Fuller, Mr. Neely Fuller just said he looks for the result. He looks for the result. Now, my question to y'all in the Lioness Den is, has Whyte Jesus yielded us any results? Has Whyte Jesus yielded us any results? Simple question. Yes or no? Yes or no? What y'all think? What y'all think? And as that is going on, I am going to pull up the broadcast again. I'm going to welcome you into the Lioness Den. I am Jade Arundel, aka Lioness Crowned, your revolutionary, unapologetically Black African host right here at FlyNubianQueen.com, the network for melanated women and some men like you. Like you. Has Whyte Jesus yielded us any results? Has Whyte Jesus yielded us any results? People are saying, nope, not for me. And he never has, and that is the truth, says Darlene X. There have been results, not good though, says Renee A. Dreadway says yes, what a fraud looks like. Creator of Civilization says take Jesus back to where he came from. Black Native says Whyte Jesus has made us passive. That is a result. Happy Go Lucky says no. I'm gonna show this comment from Jamal Francis, who says Whyte Jesus has broke more family than helped, or broken more families than helped. Brandon Clark says this is such a bad argument. Edward Tucker says 465 years of oppression, not good. I would to answer my own question, I say, yeah, Whyte Jesus has yielded us results. He has yielded us results in the form of self-hatred, in the form of seeing God, outside of our own image and likeness, in terms of, whitewashing history and taking our sacred ancient texts from ancient Kemet and rewriting them and bastardizing them. That is a result which has led to our oppression. So yeah, there are results that Whyte Jesus has yielded, but are they the desirable ones? Are there things that we actually want? Are they actually empowering us as Black African people on the planet to take our rightful place back into the cosmological order? Yes or no? Yes or no? No, not desirable, but there are results though. There are results. And so that's how I'm measuring this. So I just wanted to play that soundbite. I don't know. I can't speak for our elder. I don't know if, he would probably not think that, he said earlier, he doesn't care if Jesus is white or Black, but you look at the results that it yields. And then he was also talking about what people pray to Jesus for and whether they get it or not and the reasons that go behind that. But at the end of the day, the whole point, the moral of the story is you measure its effectiveness or someone's effectiveness, who you call on's effectiveness as to in terms of the results that they yield. And I'm here arguing that Whyte Jesus has not given us anything constructive or empowering. And if you with me, give me some flames in the chat and drop a B1 and drop a B1 and drop a B1. I see about 500 people in the chat right now. I want to ask you all to make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you also text the word Queens to 31996. That's Queens to 31996. You already know where you're at. You're in the Lioness Den. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also out on the road in these streets, so you definitely want to make sure you're tuned in and subscribed to our Facebook page at flynubianqueen.com on Facebook. I see a lot of B1s. I see a lot of flames. I see a lot of energy happening in the chat right now. Darlene X says, I used to think something was wrong with me because I couldn't connect with the Whyte Jesus growing up. I couldn't either. You know who I thought Jesus was growing up? Who I still believe in my heart. I believe in the divinity of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie the first, ruler of Ethiopia. When I used to see his image in his coronation outfit or regalia, that's who I thought. That resonates with me in terms of an image of Black Jesus. It's a whole nother conversation. But every time I saw that rock and roll Roman looking white dude, I automatically thought of Satan. Always. That has always been a part of within my spirit. Which is why a lot of times like church and stuff used to scare me. I don't recall seeing a Whyte Jesus in the church that I used to go to when I was growing up with my godmother. Because my parents didn't take us to church. I don't recall seeing, it's an old Black church too. I don't recall seeing a Whyte Jesus in there, but definitely in like old folks, people's houses and stuff. It always used to scare the hell out of me. Like, that's not Jesus. You know what I'm saying? A Rasta woman showed me pictures of Haile Selassie the first, and I would see that and I would be like, yes, that's what resonates with my spirit. Got it. So Brandon Clark, thank you for your contribution to Fly Nubian Queen. I'm going to read your comment. It says it's a bad argument because when taking other aspects of scripture, you can get negative or positive results. Are you measuring one's double-mindedness, for example? Am I measuring one's double-mindedness? No, I'm just measuring, the effectiveness of who and what I'm going to pray to and the types of results and stuff that they're yielding. Right. And so what I'm arguing is this image. I'm talking about the image of Whyte Jesus. I'm not going into scripture. I'm not giving a whole sermon or analyzing the Old Testament or New Testament or the comparisons. We know that this book was stolen. We know that this book has been translated. We know that this book has been whitewashed. We know that this book has been used to manipulate us. Somebody hashtag the Bible and the gun. How it's been used by our open enemies to oppress us and enforce slavery onto us. Somebody else type in the slave Bible, right? And so I'm not getting into theology right now. What I'm talking about is, this is a simple conversation about culture, cosmology, and us seeing our God who dwells within us in our own image and likeness, and the consequences of us not doing so, and historically what that has gotten us. Yes, it has yielded results, but they're not very, very favorable, right? I think I know for a fact that what images of Black Jesus has done to us, not just in America, because when you travel to the Caribbean, like I have, if you travel to, West Africa, like I have, and you see the most beautifully melanated people who are Christian fanatics, you know what I'm saying, preaching on the street. You see cars with bumper stickers with Whyte Jesus on it. You see whole billboards with Whyte Jesus on it, and places where it's all Black people who have a long ancient history and beautiful melanin and all of these things, and they're praying to wash themselves away from sin, believing in this idea of original sin. We were born as sinners, and you need to repent, and you want to be washed white, and your Jesus and your God is white, and you're trying to aspire to be righteous and holy. What that does to you subconsciously, and it creates a level of insanity, because you're aspiring to be something and to connect with God who does not look like you, who is actually in the same likeness and image of your oppressor. So therefore you are in turn praying to your oppressor, which I would argue in this case that I know for a fact is actually Satan. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then also, somebody put colonized minds. Yes, colonization took place on a continent. Colonization actually took place in other parts of the Americas, Caribbean, South America, all over this planet, right? There's a colonized mindset that we actually also have too, as foundational Black Americans, as indigenous Moors or Black people in what is known today as the United States of America. The results that this Whyte Jesus has yielded us is thoughts of self-deprecation, I would say cultural suicide, self-hatred, feelings of unworthiness, of not enough. It has reinforced colorism. It has reinforced this mindset of divide and conquer. It has reinforced wanting to separate from your own people and be more like white people. It has internalized within us a sense of Black or African inferiority. It has bred within us and reinforced within us this idea that whiteness, white culture is supreme to our own, i.e. white supremacy. The myth of white supremacy, of it actually being supreme. It has taken away our ancient connections to the earth, to our own cultural and religious practices. It's done hella damage. I can go on. I got notes upon notes and classes and receipts upon receipts. I can pull up some things that, I've learned from Mamba Annabello out of Haiti or Professor James Small. So that's what I'm saying. I want to shout out, thank you so much, Big Lou. Thank you so much, Big Lou. Big Lou says, thank you for your contribution to FlyNubianQueen.com, Big Lou. We really appreciate it, and may it be returned to you. May you be blessed. May you be blessed. Thank you. Big Lou says, anyone praying to a Jesus of any ethnicity is praying to the wrong Jesus. It is written, God is a spirit and Jesus is God, and those that worship him must worship him in the spirit. There is no white or Black God. Thank you for your comment, Big Lou. So with that, that's a perfect time for me to transition into the final soundbite of the hour, because we're coming up on 54 minutes in the Lioness Den, and I don't want to keep you all for too long. I'm going to ask everyone right quick, as I'm pulling up this next soundbite, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you have hit that notification bell. Make sure you are subscribed to FlyNubianQueenTV.com. That's FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Make sure you are also on our text messaging list, and make sure you text the word Queens with an S to 31996. That's Queens with an S to 31996. Make sure you visit our shop at shopfnq.com, and then also check out our programming. We're all about Black empowerment over here. Check out our programming at flynubianbusiness.com. That's flynubianbusiness.com. So listen, I try to go to bed by a certain hour. Last night I was up because I knew that I wanted to talk about this today. And then I also knew that our esteemed elder, Dr. Phil Valentine, was going to be on Brother Rich last night, That's Black Magic 363 on YouTube. Okay, so I had to check that out. Thank you so much for your generous contribution to Fly Nubian Queen. We really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy go lucky. So listen, y'all, I was up and I was like, you know what? I gotta hear what our elder has to say about all of the craziness that's going out in the world, the tearing down of these statues, these uprisings that are going on. So make sure y'all go over and check out that broadcast. I'll make sure I put it in the comments as well. But Miss Dr. Valentine said something last night that's right in alignment with what we're talking about today. Edward Tucker says, cut the check. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's listen.
The voice of God.
Hold on.
Everybody's talking about Jesus longer, the same melanin that was actually connecting you to the sun so that you could speak directly to the voice of God. Everybody's talking about Jesus Christ. Everybody's calling on Allah, naming something that should never be named. Should be something that privately speaks to you from within. Every time we call on the name of the Lord, we already reduce it to us. Every time you call on the name Jesus, you reduce it to our feeble mentality. So how could you be calling on Jesus for anything? You're calling upon the power within. You're naming it Jesus, but then you're taking the power and you're cutting it in half. The name Jesus had really never existed until what, 500 years ago? 600 years ago?
Period. I said period. Pause. This is Dr. Phil Valentine. The name of this broadcast is called the 2020 Melanin Report, and he was on Brother Rich's show last night. That's Black Magic 363 on YouTube. I'm going to put the link in the comments. But I have to reiterate and pause and tell you that Dr. Phil Valentine just said that the name Jesus didn't even come into existence until 500 years ago. Did you catch that? Or better yet, let me rewind it right quick. Here we go.
Our feeble mentality. So how could you be calling on Jesus for anything? You're calling upon the power within. You're naming it Jesus, but then you're taking the power and you're cutting it in half. The name Jesus had really never existed until what, 500 years ago? 600 years ago? The word, the letter J never existed until the 1700s. But the last book of the Bible that you call Revelations, which was actually called Apocalypse, and before that was called the initiation of anointed Isis. These were the names that you that your history or your twistery should be unfolding for you. You're supposed to be going in and snatching what belongs to you in the form of your own divinity. You don't call on your own gods today. You call on everybody else's gods but your own. And you forgot the names of your God. The Moors, most of the Moors, some of the Moors are snatching back and taking those names and bringing them into prominence again. And the thing is, and here's the thing, those who call on the oldest names of God have the superior claim to this plane.
Period. Those who call on the oldest names of God have the superior claim to this plane, this level of time and space that we're experiencing right now. So those who call on the oldest names of God have superior claim and dominion over this plane. Now listen, thank you all for hitting that like button. Get those likes up for me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Shout out to y'all. Listen up.
And here's the thing. Those who call on the oldest names of God have the superior claim to this plane. Now, why do I say that? Because with the conquest of every civilization, what's the first thing that dies?
Their God.
Their God.
If you didn't catch that, he asked a question, and the first form of conquest of any civilization, what's the first thing that they take away? Shout out to my sister, Tajay Richardson. What's the first thing that they take away when a person or a group of people is colonized or conquered? Your God. That's the first thing a conqueror, and this has happened throughout just human nature in the beginning of time. definitely within chattel slavery. The first thing that they took away from us wasn't our names or anything else. It was your God. I'm going to play that one more time.
First thing. Now, why do I say that? Because with the conquest of every civilization, what's the first thing that dies?
Their God.
Their God. First thing they tell you is, no, you're no longer going to worship your God. Worship our God. You empower us. Your words, the thoughts now go around that language. The language now empowers those who have conquered you. So you can call upon Jesus all the hell you want. You're just empowering the master that gave you that name.
Woo! Did y'all catch that? I ain't even going to reiterate it. I'm going to let the elder say it one more again.
Worship our God. You empower us. Your words, the thoughts now go around that language. The language now empowers those who have conquered you. So you can call upon Jesus all the hell you want. You're just empowering the master that gave you that name. So what I'm saying is, metaphysically, we can go back and recount the names that we, from within, were inspired to call the Creator.
Give me an example,
Our
Dr.
lives. Say that again.
Give me an example of an ancient name of God. One of the most ancient names that you have. You know of. Anu.
Onkulunkulu. Okay? Ru. These are some of the ancient names, even going back further. And you got to remember now, those who have taken your name and your power, they're the ones that's using your names for God and using all of your astrotheological sciences, but they have everted it. They've inverted it. All the Messiah. Who were the Masons? Who were the Masons first? They say, well, the Masons are these people that were bloodletting, they were killing and so forth. No, they weren't. The Masons were trying their best to get back to the ancient sciences after the Catholic Church had been taken over.
I'm going to pause right there. Y'all need to go listen. Y'all need to go listen in on this broadcast, though. That's what y'all need to do. That's what I would do if I was you. But did you hear what the elder said? We are empowering our oppressor each and every time we use the name, and I'm going to add on the image and likeness of the God or the interpretation or manifestation of God that they have impressed upon us. We are actually empowering them. We're giving them our power when we do so. So, for the last 465 years or better of people really praying in front of a white Madonna or white Mary and a white Jesus, you know what I'm saying? All of that metaphysical energy and spirit has gone into empowering the system of racism and white supremacy. Lord have mercy. That's exactly what it has done. And so when I was brainstorming like my topic and titles for the day, I came up with several topics because listen, the crazy thing is that people are baffled as to how and why our brother Shaun King is actually receiving death threats from Whyte Jesus's goons and deplorables, right? These people who are like soldiers for Christ or Jesus or whatever it is, who are so empowered and emboldened by this Whyte Jesus. There are actually black people out here, or just people out here, who are baffled as to why and how our brother Shaun King is receiving death threats from these Jesus Christ fanatics, these Whyte Jesus fanatics. And it is because, in my very humble, informed, spiritual, divine opinion, or shall I say fact, that we know that white supremacy itself is a religion. White supremacy is a religion. Whyte Jesus was used, the Bible was used, and all of that was used during these lynching celebrations where they strung up our brothers and sisters and babies on trees and ate their flesh and took home their penises and passed around their skin and ears as keepsakes. They was praying to these white supremacists and KKK and all of them were praying to Whyte Jesus before executing us be it through lethal injection in the past, or the electric chair, or these hangings, or any other forms of executions. They read from their Bible and they pray to their Whyte Jesus. And so if you ever want to know why these goons for Whyte Jesus are putting out death threats on our brother's life, is because white supremacy is a religion, and that God that they call Jesus, that white imposter, is actually the devil. Is actually Satan. Yeah, I said it. I said it. I said it. Darlene X says devil. What y'all think about that? What y'all think? What y'all think? Let me pull up the broadcast. Let me pull up the broadcast. I'm gonna make sure I share a copy of this broadcast with Dr. Phil Valentine. It's in the comments right now. Somebody said that's right. Winston Plummer says, you're just telling the truth, my sister. Dreadway say, you right. The chickens are finally coming home to roost for a racist nation of imposters that support worldly imposters. Absolutely. And as soon as I said that, woo, as soon as I read that comment, y'all notice how my light went out. How my light went out. How my light went out. I'm going to read that one more again. Thank you so much for Chipmunk's Candy. The chickens are finally coming home to roost for a racist nation of imposters that support worldly imposters. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn up, let's see if I can turn up this light on this thing here. We don't need no light. We already know that we are light. But notice how that happened right when I read that comment. That is confirmation. That is confirmation. Somebody type in confirmation. 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 And shout out to the 525 people in the chat right now and the 394 people who hit that like button. I'm going to ask everyone to hit that like button. Everyone to hit that like button. And without further ado, I am dedicating this broadcast to an elder mentor of mine, brother student minister emeritus Roland Muhammad out of Cleveland. We had a conversation. I told him I was going to go live on this. We talked yesterday. Shout out to the elder. He does tremendous work in the community. Shout out to him. He directed me to this study guide, the Nation of Islam study guide. Study guide number 12. Study guide number 12. Let me go back to it. Study guide number 12. Let's see. And I can easily just pull it up right quick. Hold on. As I'm doing that, I want you to know that I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Thank you so much, Robert Gathers. FlyNubianQueenTV.com. The network for melanated women like you. All right, so this is from GaryNOI.com. I'll make sure I put this into the comments after I read it. So this is the study guide number 12 from the Nation of Islam. And study guide number 12 is titled The 4 Great Impediments to Self-Improvement. And there was something, I'm still studying the study guide because I got it yesterday, right? So I have a lot that I need to get through. But there was one quote that I actually did want to read from it. And there's a lot of definitions in here that are defined properly, things that we need to take into consideration as we're reading any text, so we can get the proper exegesis or the proper meaning out of these biblical texts that we're reading, okay? We need to remember, though, I'm just going to add this before I read the quote that I really wanted to get to, is that white supremacy is egocentric. Somebody type in egocentric, EGOCENTRIC. And again, shout out to our brother student minister, Roland Muhammad, for passing these teachings along to me so I can share them with you. Thank you, Janice, for typing in egocentric. Egocentric means having or regarding the self as the center of all things, having little or no regard for interests, beliefs, or attitudes other than one's own, self-centered. Egocentric means having or regarding the self as the center of all things, having little or no regard for interests, beliefs, or attitudes other than one's own. Egocentric means self-centered. Is white supremacy self-centered, y'all? Yes or no? Okay, Bug Shelton. Yes or no? Is white supremacy egocentric? Question mark. Yes or no? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Gilbert says yes. Dondi says yes. Jessica, yes. Robert, yes. Just me, yes. Brother Kofi, yes. Dreadway, yes. Okay. So, according to this definition, having or regarding the self as the center of all things, egocentric. Having little or no regard for interests, beliefs, or attitudes other than one's own, egocentric. Self-centered, egocentric. White supremacy is egocentric, which would have them use a white model for these paintings and then lie to us for generations that was actually Jesus the Christ or God. A lie. Because they have to rewrite history in their own image and likeness to project that onto other people so that they can feed their cognitive dissonance and also feed this idea, this lie that they are supreme over all. Y'all see where we're going with this, right? Another thing, another word out of the study guide is impediment. Impediment is defined as an obstruction, hindrance, or obstacle. That which retards in movement or progress by means of obstacles. Impediment. I'm arguing that Whyte Jesus is an impediment onto Black African culture and civilization. Fight me. Egoism or egotism. Somebody type in egoism, E-G-O-I-S-M, E-G-O-I-S-M, E-G-O-I-S-M. And egotism, right? It's the habit or valuing everything only in reference to one's own personal interests. Self-conceit, regarding one's own welfare as the supreme end of his or her actions. Excessive and objectionable reference to oneself in conversation or in writing. Obtrusive emphasis under one's own importance, often to the extent of monopolizing attention and showing disregard for others' opinions. That is not the African way. That is not the Black way, right? Black is a culture. That is not the African way. That is not in alignment with our divine nature. That is egoism. Egotism is out of alignment with Ma'at, which means balance. I am saying that white supremacy is based off of egoism. The habit of valuing everything only in reference to one's own personal interests, self-conceit, regarding one's own welfare as the supreme end of his or her actions, excessive and objectionable reference to oneself in conversation, in writing, obtrusive emphasis upon one's own importance, often to the extent of monopolizing attention and showing disregard for others' opinions. Okay, so it goes on and on and on. So you definitely look at the study guide. This is study guide number 12. Study guide number 12. Okay. Study guide number 12. It has something in here about God in color and God being in our own image and likeness. But you can go over to that study guide. So I thought about all of these things today and prepared before I came before you today in the Lioness Den to talk about our brother receiving death threats from, I would say, suspected white supremacists. But we know that white supremacy itself is a religion based off of this lie, the Whyte Jesus. Hello. Hello. So this comes from, I think this is from Message to the Black Man. Let's see. I think. Oh, this is from the Quran. Okay, this is from a Quran, but also in the study guide number 12, quote, "We take Allah's color, and who is better than Allah at coloring, and we are his worshipers," end quote. Okay, another thing that comes out of here, you say Allah guides to the truth. Is he then who guides to the truth more worthy to be followed, or he who finds not the way unless he is guided? I think it says, what is the matter with you? How do you judge? And most of them follow aught but conjecture. Surely conjecture will not avail aught against the truth. Truly Allah is knower of what they do. God is watching. All right, so I'm going to continue my studies. I have a lot of studies to do. But these are the things that I've been thinking about, y'all. So if you ever want to know how it is that these people who claim to be God-fearing and Christian and all of this stuff are directing their hatred and violence towards our brother Shaun King for calling out Whyte Jesus, is because of symbols. Mr. Neely Fuller teaches us that symbols and statues are used for white supremacy, the system, to mark its territory. They erect statues and put up flags in X, Y, and Z to let them know, to let people know, to give the signal that white supremacy reigns supreme in a given area. Also, in my conversation yesterday with the elder, brother student minister emeritus Roland Muhammad, we talked about how removing the statues is not as significant as removing the idea or the belief system from your mind. And the reason that people are losing their minds over these statues, right, these Confederate monuments coming down, is because it represents their belief system. And so when that is erased, they feel that like they have like this amygdala like hijack in their brain where a part of their identity is being lost, they feel, or is being attacked. And without your belief system, you are no one, right? And so we can advocate for the tearing down of these monuments and the tearing down of the Whyte Jesus, but that old belief system of white supremacy must be replaced with something else. And I'm speaking to the Black family here. We must replace that with a system of justice, with Black empowerment. Go within. Your God is right in there, right? We are divine. That is something that we need to teach the children. That's what we need to remind ourselves about. So we can take down statues and images of Whyte Jesus all day long, but the question is, what are you going to replace it with? What are we going to replace it with, right? So he said that it must be replaced with a new belief system and new information to create a new reality so that we can grow and evolve. That is the point of life, is to grow and evolve. So hopefully you felt like you grew in the Lioness Den today. Hopefully you felt like you've evolved in the Lioness Den today. All right. So I'm going to remind you all to continue to check out our comment. Thank you so much, Michael Battle, for your generous contribution to flynubianqueen.com. We really, really do appreciate you. May you be blessed through your gifts. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who commented. I want to thank everyone who stepped into the Lioness Den, who was brave enough to have a real conversation. I want to thank everyone who hit the like button, everyone who shared this broadcast, everyone who thought deeply and truthfully about what was being said. I want to thank you for your energy and your time. I also want to thank our brother Shaun King for the good work that he is doing to contribute to fighting against this war of anti-Black racism. And I want everyone to hashtag right quick, hashtag no anti-Black racism. Hashtag it. Hashtag no anti-Black racism. Hashtag it. Thank you. I want to shout out all of our freedom fighters who are on the front lines, some people who may be advocating in their homes, some people who may be doing something to end this anti-Black war that we're in. Shout out to all those people. Definitely shout out to our brother, though, Shaun King, for the good works that you do. May you be guided and divinely protected, and that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I definitely want to say that. So we have to stick up for our people, watch out for our people, keep our people in prayer who are actually doing the work of justice in service of all of us, right? Thank y'all for hashtagging, hashtag no anti-Black racism. All right, y'all. So again, the point of life is we need to create a new reality. We need to create a new reality that's built upon Black empowerment so that we can grow and evolve, because that is the purpose of life. Grow and evolve. And remember, we need to stay on code and on guard at all times, because we are at war. War has been waged against us. Okay? This broadcast is ending, but so is global racism and white supremacy. We will and we must trample this beast through fortitude, preparedness, and collectivism. And always remember that they stole us, they sold us, so they owe us. Until next time, family, peace and Black power.